Hello and welcome to episode 58 of the Ohio Huntsman Podcast. And I'm sure you're aware, but deer season starts this Saturday. So I know we're super excited. We've got hunts planned for both Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully we can connect with something, or at the very least get some intel, some in-season intel for where the deer are moving and make a move on them in the first couple weeks of season. And so we want to hear from you. If you guys are out hunting, take a picture, tag us, let us know. We love seeing, your guys' view from the stand, view from the blind, and send us your success stories. Send us your pictures. We love seeing that stuff. So include us. We want to do our best to include you. We can share some of that stuff to our story and just kind of share the success with the Ohio Huntsman community. And I'm excited for it. We're really fired up for deer season this year. And I guess the other thing I'll say is stay safe out there. Keep your head on straight and wear your safety gear if you're getting in a tree stand. Falling out of a tree no deer is worth falling out of a tree. So wear your safety stuff, wear your safety harness, and come back home safe. Now, this episode is about a different kind of hunt. So if you've been following us on social, you may have seen some of our posts about our first ever dove hunt. So we talked a little bit about, we posted some stories to Instagram, things like that during the hunt. And this is kind of the play-by-play, if you will, the behind the scenes, the details of the hunt, how it went, what went well, what didn't go so well. And so hopefully maybe you guys that are more experienced dove hunters out there can give us some tips on what we could have done better, what we could have done differently. And hopefully you guys have been out doing some small game hunting, whether that's squirrels or you got out and did some dove hunting, or I know there's some goose season is in and things like that. So hopefully you're having some success there and getting ready for deer season. Before we get into the episode, I want to talk about our sponsor, Monster Whitetail Grub. They're a great sponsor of ours. They've been a sponsor for a long time now, and we've just had really good luck with their product. They make a premium deer feed product, so it's a high protein feed. It's got mineral mixed in, and you can get flavor additives. You can get other additives into the feed like peanuts, whole peanuts, things like that. And like I said, we've just had really good luck with it. So if you're looking for feed, if that's something you want to try this year or that it's something you've used in the past, there'll be a link in the show notes on how to get in touch with them and try some of their stuff. And now, let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Ohio Huntsman Podcast, where three brothers, Jason, Jacob, and Jeff, discuss all things hunting in Ohio. Our goal is to be your source for accurate and reliable hunting news and conservation issues in the great state of Ohio, as well as some fun and interesting conversations along the way. This is the Ohio Huntsman Podcast.
Are you listening?
So today on the show, it's just Jeff and I.
Yeah.
Jacob, we were just deciding if he was working or if he had some kind of family obligation. I think he had to work tonight. So Jeff and I are going to talk sort of current events. Not current events in the news, but current events in our life. So we just this past weekend went on our first ever dove hunt, first ever Ohio Huntsman dove hunt, whatever you want to call it. Team building, maybe that's what we'll call it. But we went out, did a dove hunt, had a lot of fun. I think Jeff, he's also been in the squirrel woods chasing squirrels already this season, so we'll touch on that as well. So to start, and I don't know, we're not dove hunting experts, and I have a question for the audience, so this is going to be a cliffhanger. So later in the episode, I want to ask the audience a question. People that have dove hunted before, I have a question for y'all, but I want to get into the episode a little bit before we get to that. So this was sort of a non-traditional dove hunt in the sense that we didn't really know what we were doing. But basically, we all sort of agreed to. We did this dove hunt out at our grandfather's farm, and basically, is it weird to continue to call it grandfather's farm now that he's passed? What do you think about that, Jeff?
I was wondering that the other day, like if it was weird or not, because I mean, technically Grandma owns it now, but it's weird to call it Grandma's farm.
Yeah.
And it's not the family, it's not a family farm. It was, I think we keep calling it Grandpa's farm. It'll always be Grandpa's farm, even when, if and when the land's sold to someone outside of the family.
Yeah.
It's still Grandpa's farm.
Yeah. Okay. So we did this dove hunt out at Grandpa's farm, and they didn't have like dove fields planted or anything. They've got your standard field corn and soybeans. There's some
small hay fields.
Yeah, that I don't even know that they cut for hay. I think they just bush hog
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen them cut them for hay. But anywho, some small, we'll call them hay fields. Like small, like
2-3 acres at the most.
Yeah, I guess that one down, the one down by the swamp is kind of big, but
yeah.
I'm thinking like, well, I guess the path behind the barn that is just kind of a field that isn't planted in crops. Yeah, okay, so we're all good. There's cornfields, soybean fields, some small hay fields, and some wood lots, if you will, sort of your typical, Eastern United States, Midwest kind of small farm, right? And basically our plan was to go out there and see if we could see some doves, I guess. I don't know, Jeff, what, because this was kind of your idea. So what was your plan going into it?
So I had some experience in the past of like jump shooting doves out of cornfields and bean fields, kind of flush them out of the field and shoot at them. And, I've always kind of thought like, oh, it'd be cool to actually do a group dove hunt where, we can flush these birds up and there be other people around the field to shoot at them as well.
Right.
So that was kind of the plan, was we would kind of spread out a little bit and try to push these fields a little bit to get the doves up out of the corn and the soybeans and into the air where people could shoot them.
Yeah, so we all convened out there, and we all was myself, Jacob, Jeff, his wife Amber, and our dad. We all sort of met out there and decided, we're going to head over to this one field and see if we can find some doves. So, and Jeff, jump in here if I leave any details out. But
okay,
basically, the plan we sort of decided was some of us were going to set up on this field edge, and then Jeff and I were going to walk around the perimeter of this field, and then once we got around to the backside, we were either going to come through the rows of corn, or it's like a drainage between two parts of the field. It's like a low spot that they don't plant. It's left as sort of a drainage area, I think, and that, it's just a sort of overgrown, brushy trail. So the plan was to kind of loop around this half of this field, the back half of this field, and depending on what we saw, or if we saw, or what things looked like when we got around to the other side, we were going to come either through the corn, or I think in my head, I think we were thinking we were going to walk that brushy trail and kick doves out of there.
Yeah, I thought that drainage area was going to be a good place for doves. It had some some grasses that had gone to seed and stuff like that.
Right.
So I thought they'd be in there.
Right. So that's not really what ended up happening. We got around basically to the point where, we were looking at, because this is a cornfield, and so we were looking at the map, our GPS basically to figure out like how far down the field edge we were to where, because this drainage doesn't go all the way through the field. It goes, I don't know, 3/4 of the way.
Yeah, I would say 80 or 90%.
Yeah, almost all the way.
Yeah.
Just a couple, I guess a couple planter rows far enough to where you couldn't look through the corn and see, oh, yeah, there's the path. But, it was almost all the way. So we were trying to figure out on the map where we were in relation to that drainage. And all of a sudden, we got doves flying overhead, basically. And I think you shot first.
No, you shot and killed. The very first shot of the day was you, and you shot, and it fell into that pricker bush.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And we were messing around trying to dig the bird out of that bush.
Yeah, and so I guess to set this up a little bit, it's on our left is cornfield, taller than head high cornfield. On our right is like a sort of property line, small creek running in the bottom of this. There's a little, it's a stretch to call it a ravine, but it's bigger than a ditch. I guess it's a little ravine. Would you call it a little ravine?
Little ravine between two large ag fields.
Yeah.
So there's a little creek that runs in there, and trees.
And some trees, and then just briars, right? Because it's not wide enough for because they were pretty mature trees in there. I mean, the one tree, it was, I don't know if you could have got, if you and I stood on either side of it, if we could have wrapped our arms around. I mean, it's a huge tree, that one tree.
Yeah.
But that, that's an exception. But, there's some mature trees, but this tree row, this drainage, this ravine isn't wide enough for that timber to shade it all out. So basically everything in there was briars, tons and tons of briars. So this first dove falls right into, now this was up on top still, into this briar thicket. And that was my first dove, and my first experience of like, oh, this isn't just shooting doves and going and picking them up out of a mowed yard or something. There's a trying to find these birds once they're on the ground component to this. And that's basically what we spent. I don't know how long we were over there, but as we're trying to find that dove, more doves started to fly overhead. There was a few trees there that they kind of seemed to want to be in. And
there's
so
a few dead trees that they seemed to want to try to land in.
Yeah, so as they were flying overhead, to I guess stop off at this tree, or a couple of these different trees, we would have shot opportunities, and so we'd be trying to find a dove, and then another dove. Jeff would be shooting again, or I'd be shooting, and of course, the other half of our group is on the other side of the field, not seeing any doves, and just hearing us sort of shooting away, because we also discovered that doves are hard to hit.
Yeah.
And I lost track of how many doves we missed, but it was a lot. And that was kind of funny because, like I said, we've not done this before. This was Jeff's idea, sort of like, let's go see if we can kick some doves out of these fields, and so I brought 2 boxes of shells and figured this is going to be way more than what I need. And Dad, he was the most, what's the word I'm looking for?
Pessimistic?
Yeah, pessimistic about it. Sort of like, I'll put 3 in my gun and that'll probably be it sort of thing. 3 shells, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, not quite that bad. He brought a box of shells, I think.
Yeah. He brought a box. I don't know if it was full, but he had a box.
Yeah, he brought a handful of shells and figured, well, And I think he about ran out. He had to get some shells from Jacob or something, right?
Yeah, well, I think he said when we decided to move away from those dead trees because we had officially scared all the doves away, and we started going back, I said, I got to stop at the truck to get more ammo. And he said, yeah, I have 4 left. I have, there's 5 more in the truck. If you could grab me those 5 more. So he was down to 9, I guess.
Okay.
At that point.
So basically, Jeff and I were over there having a grand time, figuring like, okay, after we find this one, we'll meet up with the rest of the group, or we'll have them come over here, or we'll come up with a new plan. And every time we thought that, there'd be another dove or another couple doves that would come in, and so finally they came over to us. They couldn't take it anymore, right? There's all this shooting. They're sitting over there twiddling their thumbs, more or less. And we hung out there for a while, but at that point it was kind of a lot of people, because like I said, there's not a ton of room there, right? It's a field edge up to this, briar choked ravine. Not a lot of places to really kind of fan out there. So we hung out there for a while, but it like you said, it sort of felt like when Jake and I left, it sort of felt like things were kind of slowing down, and there was a lot of people kind of packed in there. So Jake and I figured, well, we're going to go try another area that we know of that looks sort of similar to this, sort of on the other side of the farm, as we were going to kind of head that direction. And sure enough, it seemed like as soon as we left, the action picked back up, and we were kind of kicking ourselves like, oh man, I don't know, maybe we should have stayed over there, or, because now we were the ones in the position of hearing all the shooting and not doing any shooting of our own. So you guys got a few more after we left, right? A few more doves.
Yeah. I think, I'm trying to think. Amber shot 1, which was her first ever dove, her first ever small game kill. She's gotten a couple of deer, but that was her first small game kill. She was pretty jazzed up about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, they basically had me down in that ravine trying to bird dog their birds, and they sat up there at the field edge and shot the birds that were coming in.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. So they were doing the shooting, and they were like, oh, it's over there in that big briar thicket, huh?
Yeah, basically, because what happened was I shot one, and it went down, into the ravine, and I think I shot it, but it was still able to walk, like I broke a wing or something.
Okay.
Because I think that one was moving around on me, like it didn't stay where it went down at. So then okay. I'm down in this ravine. Well, then they're up there, shooting from the hilltop up in the sky, and these birds are falling down, into the ravine, down the ravine 10 yards or up there,
down around
falling.
You.
Yeah, because they're all falling down, and they're telling me, go this way, go that way, look, And, I mean, it's thick briars.
Yeah, like, if I wasn't the one to shoot it and, like, follow where it went to the ground, it was hard to, like, go, it was over that way, and it was like, over that way, like, because the other thing that we were struggling with is the briars are so thick that the bird didn't necessarily make it to the ground. It could get, there was a couple times where you're looking on the ground and all of a sudden you look up and the bird's hung up in the briars at head height or chest height or, something like that, where you've been looking on the ground the whole time.
Yeah. The other problem we had was you could see the bird. You knew where the bird was at. You could see it in the briars, but it's like, how do you get to it?
Yeah.
We didn't bring any clippers or anything that start clipping through these briar patches. And
yeah,
they some of these areas were thick with briars.
Yeah, I was unprepared for that. Like next time I will wear more in the way of brush clothing. I just had a pair of camo jeans on and a polyester long sleeve camo shirt, which does not fare well as I found out against briars. So next time I'll definitely wear gloves. I didn't bring gloves, and so my hands, they're still all scratched up and everything, and got shredded pretty good trying to get through briars to get these birds. So anything, I guess. So you were over there bird dogging down doves for them.
Yeah.
Jacob and I started working over to the other side of the farm, and sort of the same thing. The idea was because he hadn't got a dove yet, and so the idea was that he was going to set up over. Again, we found another sort of dead tree, and we're hoping that maybe it was going to act the same as that cluster of dead trees, just as a stopping off point. And we started. My plan was I was going to kind of loop around this field, and there was another section that was planted in corn, and swing over to him. And I got back around, and Jacob's nowhere to be found. And, so I said, Jake, what? And here he had shot a dove, and same thing, down under these trees it's on the end of sort of a long finger field, if you will. And at the end, there's a pretty wide creek, but right there, this time of year at least, it was pretty shallow. But he said, I shot this dove, it fell out of the tree, it should be right around here. And we looked and looked and looked. We even found, blood trail's a bit of an exaggeration, but we found specks of blood from this dove, and we just never found the bird. I don't know. We spent a good long while over there looking for that dove, and just finally it was like, I don't know, man. We've trampled through all of this. We've looked high, because we knew that they were getting hung up in the briars. We looked up, we looked on the ground, under all, we picked that place apart, and we never could find that dove. So at that point, then I think because you guys, I think that was the point when you guys were heading back across the field to stock back up on ammo, and that area where you guys were at was kind of tapped out.
Right.
So we all kind of reconvened, and I don't know what time it was, at 10:30 maybe at that point.
Yeah, probably about 10:30.
So that was sort of the end of our, well, wasn't the end of our success. That leads me to my question, though, because as you guys were coming across the field, right, you jumped a dove, and Jeff, you shot at this dove.
Mm-hmm.
And tell the story.
Well, yeah, that's another thing was that. So yeah, we were walking across the field. We jumped one set of doves, and none of us got a shot. They flew low and real close to the corn, so there was no real safe shooting opportunity. And then we jumped another set of doves, and actually Dad had forgotten to put or no, he forgot to take the safety off. So Dad was the one with like the first shot opportunity, and he forgot to take the safety off. So he didn't get his shot. So the bird was a little bit further away when I had my shot, and I shot it and knocked a bunch of feathers off of it. I mean, big puff of feathers. And we were expecting this bird to drop, fly a little bit further and then fall out of the air. And it just kept going, flew another 100 yards before it was out of sight. And never stopped.
So that leads me to my question. What you guys out there that hunt doves or have hunted doves, what dove ammo do you like? What, whether it's a particular brand or maybe more importantly, what's the shot size that you like? What were you were shooting at that point, Jeff? What were you shooting?
At that point, I was shooting Remington Heavy Dove. That was 8-shot at that moment.
Okay.
I had some 7-shot. I had some 8-shot, and then towards the end of the day, I switched the 6-shot because we had hit a few doves, knocked feathers off of them, and they kept flying. So I was like, I'm not having a problem hitting them. I just need to knock them out of the air.
Yeah, and I think because of the way we were going about it, we were ending up with longer shots, I felt like.
Yeah, well, because they weren't coming to the ground. Well, especially when we were in the spot with the dead trees, they weren't coming to the ground. They were trying to land into those trees.
Right.
Which was a fairly long poke.
Yeah.
Even if you were standing directly below the tree, it was still, they wanted to land in the very tippy top. And that's not a super close shot.
Right. So for those kind of scenarios, you guys that are more experienced in the dove hunting, what's the word? What do I want to look? More experienced in the ways of dove hunting, or you've done this more than we have. You have more experience. What do you like for dove ammo? What seems to work well for you, especially if you're in a scenario where you're going to have, potentially longer shots? And then, so from there, let us know. Either reply to this post where I posted this, shoot us a Facebook message, shoot us an Instagram message, whatever. There's lots of ways to get in touch with us. But let us know, because we're curious now that we're getting into this dove hunting world. So we want to learn from the people that have come before us and know their way around dove hunting a little more than we do. I want to pause here for a minute and talk about our other sponsor, Mastin's Deer Scents. So Mastin's is a premium scent product company. They collect all their scent on stainless steel, and it's just good stuff. We've had the little bit of testing we've done with it. We've had good success. So if you're looking for scent, if you like to use scent or want to experiment with it, I encourage you to give Mastin's a try. Like I said, we've had good luck with it, and I'm sure you guys will too. Now is a great time of year to be getting your scrape lines going. So Mastin's actually sells a scrape scent dripper, and their scent bottles, their 4-ounce scent bottles, fit right into their drip bags. So you take the cap off the bottle when it comes, the spray cap, and screw the dripper cap on, and you don't have to pour it into a different container. There's no mess. Simple and easy, and it's good scent. So if you're looking for scent, if that's something you want to try, I encourage you to check out Mastin's. So check out the show notes for a link to their website and buy some of their stuff. Now, back to the episode. So basically then the rest of the day we spent sort of doing the same thing. Like, hey, we're going to split up and you guys go this way around this field and we'll go around this way. We found that the bean fields didn't really seem to be attracting doves at this. I mean, the pods aren't, it's not dropping seeds or anything. The pods aren't hardened off or anything. So at least I never saw any doves come up out of a bean field. Did you see anything like that, Jeff?
No, I don't think I saw any doves out of the bean fields.
So the only other dove action that we found was sort of the last field we were going around. It was a bean field, but on the end of this bean field, it started another cornfield. And I guess I wasn't there. I just heard the shooting, so I'll let you sort of take it from there.
Yeah, so there was this cornfield, and I saw a dove fly from probably, 75 yards away. I saw a dove fly and land down in this cornfield. So my plan was I was going to go over there and hopefully flush it up. And it was me and my wife, Amber, were together. Jacob and Jason were going around the other side of the field. So flush it up, and either my wife or I was going to shoot it. Well, I got over there and got close to that field, and all of a sudden, just swarms of birds are coming out of this field, both doves and starlings. And, just a big flock of birds, just, probably 20 birds comes up. Originally, I am trying to line up the sights on one. I realize it's starling, so I switch over to a dove. My wife starts shooting. I shoot at a dove. Well, now that we're shooting, even more birds are coming up out of this field. And there was probably 15 doves in that small little section of field, and then probably another 30 starlings that just all came up out of there.
Yeah, so it from our side of the field, we heard the shooting start, and I looked over and basically just saw a bunch of birds coming up out of the field, and it was like, oh, they got into some over there, and we kind of stopped and wondered, maybe some of these doves will swing over by us. They never did. They never even really came our direction. But yeah, so then the plan, we sort of met back up on the other side of the field, and the plan was we were all going to set up on the end of the field where you guys sort of busted all these doves out of there and starlings. And Jeff, you were going to kind of come through the corn and try to do the same thing, hoping that there was more doves in there, or some of those doves had gone back in there, and we would be ready this time. And unfortunately, not a one. We didn't get a shot on that sort of last little push. Nothing. Yeah. At that point, it was basically lunchtime. We had 12 doves. We ended up with 12 doves, and so yeah, I think at that point we called it quits and headed. Well, no, that's not. Well, we were basically going to call it quits. I think we were going to head back to the house, and we got back to the house, and I'm forgetting the order here. If we went in the field behind the house first and then went across the street, is that how it went?
Yeah. We got back to the house. We got out of the truck, and we watched doves fly overhead and land in the cornfield.
That's right.
Like right behind the house. We watched them land.
Yeah, so and there's a path, a drive that goes back in there, because there's an old pump jack and an oil tank back there. Or I don't know if there's a pump jack back there anymore. Is there? Maybe it's just tanks.
I think it's just oil tanks now. I don't think there's a pump jack anymore.
Yeah. Either way, there's a little drive that goes back there in a little clearing. Corn, again, this is cornfield, corn on either side of this drive. And the plan was sort of this. I mean, we weren't going to go all this field wasn't really set up to work around the edges, but we were just going to kind of fan out and walk down this path and see if we could kick these doves up. And we did. They held tight, really. I mean, at least from what we had been seeing prior to this, we were pretty close to them when they jumped up. And I couldn't see who got a shot. I got a shot, and Jeff, do you know who did you shoot?
I shot, and Jacob. I shot once, and I think Jacob shot once.
Okay.
But yeah, those
none of
doves,
us hit one.
Yeah, because the way that they came up for the people that were in the drive was they came up and were high, like a safe shot, and then they came down and went right in front of those oil tanks for us, so we couldn't shoot. And then as they got back out of that drive is when I shot.
Okay.
So Jacob shot as soon as they jumped, and then you shot, because you'd had a different angle.
Yeah, I was off to the right.
Once they got out of that drive, or out of that, driveway, I shot.
Yeah, so, and then we decided there was another field across the street from the house that we figured, well, we'll go walk the perimeter, and that was basically just a walk around the field. We didn't see a dove. We didn't jump a dove. We didn't. Nothing.
We jumped a deer.
We did jump a deer. That's right. Yeah, and that's because that's a good deer hunting. It was timbered. It's getting to be quite a few years ago now.
Yeah, probably 5. Do you think 5 years ago?
Yeah, probably at least, I would think. But so it's again, a lot of briars down there. They left some of the, when Grandpa had him do that, he had him leave some of the smaller walnuts and stuff, I think. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, it was opened up a lot. And so it's briars, it's, kind of shrubby now, getting grown up. But deer like to get up in there. And so this deer was just off the field edge. And us walking the field edge was enough to push her out of there. So it was a doe. She came out in the soybean field and beat feet all the way over to the far edge of the field and into the woods. But that was cool to see. She was pretty close when she came out of the woods there. So we got a good look at her. And but yeah, that was it. That deer we saw, and then it was back to the house to get all the doves cleaned up and call it a day. Yeah.
And we had a ton of doves flying over our heads while we were cleaning them up.
Yes, of course.
That was really good. Like, those doves were flying low. They were flying slow as we're sitting there cleaning doves.
Yeah. So if you follow us on social, you can see we posted the photos or the results of the day of Jacob, Jeff, and I with the 12 doves there. So then I went home and because we sort of divvied up the meat, and I went home and made I don't know what I would call them, kind of dove poppers, but they weren't jalapeno poppers. They were just a dove breast with I put a piece of green bell pepper in there and just wrapped them in bacon. I didn't season them or anything. Just dove breast, green bell pepper, and wrapped in bacon, and grilled them. Basically just grilled them till the bacon on the outside got crispy, and ate them like that. And they were real good. I mean, I don't know. I think you could wrap bacon, wrap just about anything in bacon and make it taste good, but it was good. I enjoyed them that way, and I'm curious to see what you and Amber are going to do with yours and what Jacob's going to do with his. So
yeah, I think we have roughly the same plan for ours.
Yeah.
But interesting thing, pretty timely. I got home from work today and checked my email, and I had a email from the ODNR asking me to fill out a survey about dove hunting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they sent out, to a random number of people who had filled out the HIP survey, saying we want to kind of gauge interest and success of hunters dove hunting. So they wanted to know basically just how much I hunted in the first week of dove season, private or public, and how successful I was.
Okay.
So that was cool. That was pretty timely.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was our first ever Ohio Huntsman dove hunt. So it was a good time. I definitely see us doing that again. Maybe again this season. Maybe do like a late season dove hunt if we can find a place that has doves. Or definitely I see us adding this to our. I see us adding this to our list of hunts that we do each year. We've got a sort of a handful of things that we like to try to fit in, and I definitely see us adding this to the list. So
yeah, dove hunting with a group, because I had never hunted with a group. I've basically just done solo jump shooting doves,
right.
And this was a lot more fun, because most of the time you can only do, you could only jump so many doves because you can't walk through the middle of a cornfield because you don't have any shots. So
Right.
you walk the edge, and whatever doves you jump up, you shoot at. And, sometimes you're jumping 2 and sometimes you're jumping 20. Well,
Yep.
If you're jumping 20, you're basically not very efficient there because, at the best, you're shooting 3.
Well, and this would have been hard by yourself too, because like we said, a lot of times it was one guy's looking for a dove, still looking for a dove, and the other guy, here comes another one, and so there would have been a lot of missed opportunities, I guess, given this scenario if you were by yourself.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, you've also been doing some squirrel hunting, some early season squirrel hunting. So how's that been going?
It's been going fairly well. I have a pretty unproductive set of woods that I hunt for squirrel. There's a lot of red squirrels, a few grays, few fox squirrels. So it's more out there, after work, just it's convenient, wanting to get out in the woods and spend some time in the woods. And I understand the concept of early season squirrel hunting very well. That like you walk through the woods and kind of listen for the sound of rain, which is, the nuts falling out of the trees that, from squirrels eating, or you listen for squirrels chomping. But I'd never really had the opportunity to really execute it very well. Like I kind of heard it, but by the time you get over to where you think you hear the noise, there's no more noise anymore. There's nothing. Well, I was out and, I heard, what sounds like rain. And so I kind of was creeping closer and getting closer. And, I'd stop and wait. And I eventually identified what tree it was coming from. It was coming from a shagbark hickory. And I just, I sat below it and waited. I would catch a glimpse of the squirrels, but because of the full canopy, they're hidden. And I eventually got a shot and missed. But then the squirrel was basically trying to escape. He knew that I was down below him trying to shoot at him. And what really got him in trouble was he moved to another tree, and then he ran down the tree and up another smaller tree that wasn't as high. it was only like a 20-foot tall tree. And then he had nowhere to go, really, because now I have an easy shot instead of it being, a 40-foot tall tree that I can, barely see the upper branches. He's well within range now.
Right.
So I did that. And that was, I think it was a fox gray squirrel hybrid. I had never seen a squirrel like that before. It was a weird looking squirrel. It was reddish colored with a gray tail.
Okay.
So it was a very strange looking squirrel. I'd never seen anything like it before. And then
will they hybridize? Like, will they hybridize like that?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
I don't know how common it is for them to hybridize. But they will hybridize. And that's a lot of times because I think gray squirrels are actually a little bit more successful of breeders than fox squirrels, the males are.
Okay.
So that's why male fox squirrels are so aggressive towards gray squirrels, is because the gray squirrels are a little bit better at, breeding. So the fox squirrels need to defend their territory a little bit more aggressively.
Okay.
And then I've also got a couple of red squirrels so far this year, but that's more or less target practice. They're a small squirrel, so it's a hard shot, and you're not getting a ton of meat, but it makes you a good shot if you can.
Yeah.
Basically, the only time I'm ever connecting is when they decide to stop and bark at me, because they're very small and they're very fast, so they don't, unless they're barking at me, they're not stopped for long enough for me to find them in the scope, get steady, and pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So maybe eventually they'll learn to stop barking at me, because I'll be going home empty-handed then.
Yeah. So that's sort of the story of our first dove hunt, and a little update from Jeff on some other small game hunting he's been doing here in the early season. So hopefully you guys are ready for deer season, or almost ready for deer season, and also hopefully you're taking time to do some early season small game hunting.
Early season goose, and teal's in right now. So
so hopefully,
and I've heard teal's really good. I've heard that's one of the best waterfowl you can have.
Okay.
So,
here's another thing I wanted to touch on real quick is we had a listener question write in and ask, how would you go about hunting or figuring out how to hunt old, overgrown railroad tracks? So the impression I got was these are old tracks that are out of commission, not used, whatever the case may be, old, overgrown railroad tracks. And so he wanted to hunt rabbits. So it's relevant small game here. We're talking early season small game. Wants to hunt rabbits on old, overgrown railroad tracks. And so basically, where I sort of steered him is use your county GIS maps to figure out who actually owns. Are they owned by the railroad company, or if they're out of commission tracks, are they now owned by an individual, or figure out who owns them, and whether that's you're just going to you can Google basically any county and GIS, and you can typically find your county's GIS maps, and which gives you property owner information, or you can use a service like Onyx or Hunt Stand to get that same information. But then you've basically got a name and usually a mailing address where you can reach out to whoever owns that property, and hopefully get some permission. But I guess if that's helpful for anybody else that's listening, that's got a similar situation, just wanted to touch on that briefly, I guess. And Jeff, would you have any other way you would have steered that person?
No, I think that's the best way to start is you got to find out who owns it.
Yeah. I mean, because for rabbit hunting, I would imagine that would be some pretty sweet habitat, right? I mean, if it's an old overgrown railroad tracks. But yeah, you got to figure out how to get who owns it in order to then contact them and get permission. So
yeah.
And there you have it. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you for supporting the show and giving us feedback. We really, really appreciate that. And it makes us let me try that again. It makes us excited to continue doing the show, continue bringing episodes, because we're hearing from you guys that you're liking the content. And so continue to give us feedback. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. And we'll continue to try to make the show better. Let us know if there's a topic you want us to cover. Send us a message on Facebook. We're Ohio Huntsman on Facebook. Send us a message on Instagram. We're Ohio Huntsman _podcast on Instagram. Or just shoot us an email at ohiohuntsman@gmail.com. And we will do our best to answer that question or talk about that topic. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for listening.